Okay, 60 seconds recovery. Why do I always talk about 60 seconds recovery in between intervals? And how can this help you become a better runner and a fitter runner and be able to manage your game, your race, once things go off rail? Now, it's super important, and I've always injected this 60 seconds into my interval training, because what you need to do, and the jury's out, the different coaches, different athletes are working off different recovery periods and different types of recovery. So if you're doing an interval session, you might be doing 20 times 400 or 5 times 10 minutes. Doesn't matter. I always use 60 seconds recovery, and I'll tell you why. But other athletes are using 3 minutes recovery. They're using even longer than that. If you're sprinting, think of it like the gym, yeah? If you're training on total quality, yeah, if you're trying to lift as much as you possibly can and you're doing literally 1 reps or 3 reps of a really, really heavy weight, you're trying to lift a lot of weight because you're probably training for powerlifting. And therefore you need more recovery because you're not trying to build a fitness person, a weightlifter who's trying to lift a lot of weight, as much weight as possible in a day, or as much weight as possible in 2 hours. Exactly the same as a sprinter. A sprinter is getting ready to run 100 meters or 400 meters or 200 meters as fast as they possibly can. 1500 meters is working much more on quality, 1500 meter runner. We're distance runners. And so we're probably training for 10 kilometers, half marathons, marathons, and ultra marathons. And so what we will realize in your racing journey is that from time to time, first of all, you're going to go into the red and you need to pull it back and you need to regain control of your breathing, your heart rate, and then go again. Super important skill to learn, just in running and in life in general. But also, it's really important for us to keep our heart rates under control, to keep ourselves essentially in zone 2. But zone 2 is essentially a comfortable period of time that you can be running for 3 hours for. So for me, I can run much further in zone 2 and zone 3 because I've trained a lot in those zones and I'm able to go for 100K, 6 hours, 7 hours in zone 2, zone 3. It's quite comfortable for me, but that's a case of training. But part of that training has been 60 seconds, whether it's a minute interval, whether it's a 400 meter interval, whether it's a 10-minute interval, 60 seconds, stood on the spot. How much can I bring my heart rate down from what the interval was in, whether it was 165 beats, 175 beats, 190 beats, how quickly can I get that down to 130 beats? And that for me will take me back into zone 1. Why is that important for you? Now, I'm not saying your zone 1 will cap off at 130 beats, so don't use that. What I'm trying to say is you want to train your body within a minute to bring your heart rate down from out of control, almost out of control. An interval, you should always be in control, but in a race, it can get out of control. And so you want to train your body to bring your heart rate down from a high heart rate like 165, 175, 190, all the way down as much as you possibly can so you're back in control of your breathing and your heart rate so you can go again. What that leads to is you can spend longer in your lactate threshold zones. So in zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, you can spend longer in that because you're bringing your heart rate down and you're easily able to control your heart and get back into the right zone, whatever the training session, whatever the purpose of the training session is. But also you're training your body so that if you do go into the red in a race, you're able to bring that back and you're able to kind of jog for a minute or kind of like float for a minute, just bring everything back, lower the heart rate, you're training your body to lower your heart rate so then everything seems more manageable. We've all done it where we get out of control in the excitement of a race. I've done it in a 5K race, which is just sort of 15 minutes for me, but it can happen to you in a 10K race, it can happen in a half marathon, a marathon. You get excited at the start, all of a sudden the first 3K, and you're into the red, and you're like, I cannot sustain this heart rate. It happened to me at Comrades Marathon. We were running 89 kilometers, and after a kilometer, I'm like, I can't even sustain this pace for a half marathon, 21K. How am I going to do it for 89K? So I need to bring it back. And without that kind of training where, okay, hold on a second. Don't get excited. There's 100 people in front of you. I've never seen that in an ultra race before, but they will come back because everybody's gone off too fast. So you've got to be confident and in control of your own game and know what you can actually manage. But that training of bringing my heart rate down really came in useful in those situations because it's not just standing on the spot that's going to lower your heart rate. It's you bringing it back. And so, yes, you can start to kind of play around with that eventually. But what I'd say initially, and this will be different. So if you're training like this for the first time and you're using 60 seconds instead of what usually would be 3 minutes or more or jog recovery or whatever, it will be a shock to the system initially. Your heart rate will be like, whoa, it's not long enough. And it will feel like that minute goes by so quickly. Somebody asked me this the other day in the comments. It went by so quickly. And that will happen for the first couple of weeks. And as I said to this guy, That will happen for the first couple of weeks, but that's only 2 interval sessions. We're only doing 1 interval session per week. 1 interval session, 1 long run per week. That's all you're doing. The rest is recovery runs and easy runs. So you've got 2 sessions where it's gonna feel like it's not long enough. But what that will do is force your heart rate to come down a bit. So if I haven't, let's say I didn't run for the next 2 months and I went back to do an interval session, I'm gonna start and it's gonna be quite gradual, but my heart rate will go up. And then if I try to bring it down within 60 seconds, it's not gonna get to 130 beats. It might get into zone 2, into under 150 beats, and I still won't feel totally recovered for that next interval, but that's not the point. Within 2-3 sessions, interval sessions, within 2-3 weeks, your body will realize, I've got to recover, because I've got to bring it down, because what's coming next is another one of the thing that I've just ran, whether that's a 1-minute interval or a 10-minute interval. So your body will adapt with you exactly the same way as your muscles grow in the gym, exactly the same way that you learn to run gradually faster as you're doing intervals, exactly the same way that you gradually run progressively longer in the long run and build endurance. It's exactly the same with the heart rate. It's super important to get this. And it's super important to implement it because it will help you in the interval training. If you box off your interval training and you become a great interval training runner, then you're going to be a great racer because you'll build speed. You'll learn how to build speed, whether you're running shorter distances like 1, 2, 3 minutes, or whether you're running longer distances like 5, 10 minutes. And that will make your race pace feel so much more manageable. And if you make those sessions fun, and those are the most fun sessions for me, then you're going to want to do it more often. So it's going to happen every week, and just cap it off every week. You can do some strides in between the interval session and the long run. So maybe on a Friday you do some strides on that second recovery day, or probably even Saturday I would do strides. To do an easy run and then do 10 times 80 meters, just accelerations. You can do that, but you only need 1 strong interval session per week. And as I've said before, gradually get into that. So it's not you going off and doing 20 times 400 meters and you're out of control and your heart rate's out of control and you don't know what you're doing. You've got to be in control. So the speed comes with time. And what will shock you is your body's ability, your cardio system's ability to take on more speed, to work at a higher level. You'll be shocked. So if you can run, let's say 10K in 50 minutes right now, so you'll start your intervals off, I'm gonna do 10 times 5 minutes, or let's say 6 times 5 minutes, 30-minute total volume, and I'm gonna have 60 seconds. It's a great session, because what you can do is you can try to run a bit faster than your 10K personal best of 50 minutes. So let's try to do those in 4 minutes 45 per kilometer. And that might be really difficult for you at first, but what you'll realize within 3, 4, 5 weeks is you'll soon be running 430s and 420s and then 415s. And when it comes to race day, and this is the key point, when it comes to race day and you're trying to run a 10K in 50 minutes, for the first 6, 7 kilometers, that's gonna feel super easy. If you've got 10 weeks of interval sessions and you've been used to running 4 minutes, 420, 430, 440 per kilometer, and all of a sudden you try to run a 50-minute PB, or let's say a 47:30 PB, 47 minutes and 30 seconds PB, it's gonna feel so easy for the first 6, 7 kilometers. And it's gonna be like a marathon. You've gotta dig in for that final third, for that final quarter. Super important. If you have any questions, like I said, you can write a book on this topic, but if you have any questions on how to implement it or how it's going for you specifically at the moment, if you need any guidance, just let me know in the comments below and I'll answer.